Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna, 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 Ram Ram, Krishna, 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 Ram Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna, Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna, 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 Ram Ram, 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 Krishna, Krishna, Ram Ram, Krishna, 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 Ram Ram. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Sari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Ram,
Hare Krishna,
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna, Ram Ram, Ram
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna,
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna,
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Ram,
Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Hare, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram Ram.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare
Ram,
Hare
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 Krishna,
Hare
Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Ram,
Krishna Hare Hare Ram
Hare
Ram
Krishna,
Ram
Krishna
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Rama Rama Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Jai Shiva, Shaka Krishna, Krishna Radhana Swami Namah Shivaya Krishna Shiva Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Vijnananda Shesha Shunari Pacha Purusatana Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Radha Rasa Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Ram 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 Hare Ram Hare Hare Ram Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Ram Ram. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Ram Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Much appreciate that
Hare
started
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare,
the share with
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram,
Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna
Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Ram
Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram, Hare
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram,
Hare Krishna Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
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 Krishna,
Ram
Hare Ram, Hare Ram,
Krishna Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare
Hare Ram
Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Ram
Ram, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Hare Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
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 Krishna,
Ram
Hare
Krishna Hare
Hare Ram,
Ram Hare
Hare
Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Ram Krishna Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Prasad Prabhuji Prabhuji Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Prasad Prabhuji Hare Krishna Giriraj Prabhuji
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Gauravaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Giriraj Prabhuji Hare
Ram
Krishna
Hare Krishna 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 Ram
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhuji
Krishna Ram Hare Krishna
Prabhuji Hare Krishna
Ram Hare Krishna
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी सन्मत जी दंडवत प्रणाम सवाल
Ram
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam
हरे कृष्ण माता जी दंडवत प्रणामालु
कुछ दूर है ना
Prabhuji Hare Krishna Prasad Prabhuji Prabhuji Hare Krishna Prasad Prabhuji Yeah. Mullidhar Prabhuji మీరు చేస్తారా మంగళాచరణ
ओके माता जी
చేయండి క్రౌడ్ ఏంటి ప్రభుజీ ఓన్లీ 4 ఉన్నారు డివోటీస్ రావట్లేదా
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाता सहजन रघुनाथान्वितं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। वैष्णव ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। हरे कृष्ण माता जी, धन्यवाद, प्रणाम।
హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ. ఆ, ఆ, ప్రభుజీ ఇంతేనా? 4 మెంబర్సే ఉన్నారు రోజు ఇక్కడే
అంటే
వస్తుంది.
మెల్లగా వస్తారేమో అవుతుంది. యాక్చువల్ అంటే ఒక 8 మెంబర్స్, ఈ రోజు మరి 4 మెంబర్సే ఉన్నారు. మరి ఇంకా వాళ్ళ నుంచి కోలుకున్నారో లేదో, మరి లేకుంటే నెట్ ఏమన్నా సరిగా లేవో, వాళ్ళకు జాయిన్ కానికి ఏమన్నా ఇబ్బందులు ఉన్నాయేమో తెలియదు మరి. ఎందుకంటే 8 వల్ల అయింది, అయినా కానీ ఇంకా 4 మెంబర్సే ఉన్నారు. చేస్తుంటే
ప్రసాద్
మెల్లగా
ప్రభుజీ.
వస్తారు.
యా, థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రభుజీ.
మెసేజ్
ప్రసాద్
పెట్టమని
ప్రభు,
ప్లీజ్ జాయిన్.
ప్రసాద్ ప్రభుజీ, హరే కృష్ణ. నేను అండ్ సార్, మీకు తెలుసా ప్రభుజీ ఇక్కడ ఇప్పుడు ఏం చదువుతున్నాము?
భగవద్గీత 7 నిన్న 1 అయిపోయింది మాతాజీ.
మీరు చదవండి ప్రభుజీ, ఒక 3-4 వర్సెస్ చదవండి. అంతసేపు ప్రసాద్ ప్రభుజీ టేక్ ఓవర్
ఓకే
చేస్తారు.
ఓం అంటే నిన్నటిది ఒకసారి శ్లోకం చేసి సెకండ్ దానికి వదిలిన మాతాజీ.
ప్రభుజీ చేయండి, మీరు మాతాజీ
ఓం
ఇద్దరు.
శ్రీ పరమాత్మనే నమః. శ్రీమద్భగవద్గీత అథ సప్తమోऽధ్యాయः. శ్రీభగవానువాచ మయ్యాసక్తమనః పార్థ
హరే కృష్ణ. స్టార్ట్.
యోగైర్జన్మదాశ్రయः అసంశయం సమగ్రం మాయ్ యథా జ్ఞాస్యసి తశృణు. జ్ఞానం జ్ఞేయం సవిజ్ఞానం శేషతః యజ్ఞాత్వా నేహ భూయోన్యత్ జ్ఞాతవ్యమవశిష్యతే.
మనుష్యాణం సహస్రేషు.
ఇది చేయాలి సెకండ్.
హరే కృష్ణ మురళీధర్ ప్రభు.
హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభు, దండాలు ప్రణామం.
ప్రణాం ప్రభు. ఫస్ట్ మంగళాచరణతో స్టార్ట్ చేయండి ప్రభు. నేను ఈ లోపు ల్యాప్టాప్ కనెక్ట్ అవుతాను.
మంగళాచరం అయిపోయినాయి ప్రభు.
చేస్తారు.
చేసేసాం ప్రభు.
సరే. సరే. ఓకే, మీరు భగవద్గీత శ్లోకాలు చదువుతున్నారు కదా ప్రభు?
అదే 7.2 కదా ఈరోజు. అంటే 1 ఓకే చదివాను, సెకండ్ చేసాము. సెకండ్ ఇప్పుడు
చదువుతా
చేయాలి.
నేను ఈ లోపు ల్యాప్టాప్ కనెక్ట్ అవుతున్నాను.
ఓకే పలికిచ్చు.
జ్ఞానం తేహం సవిజ్ఞానమిదం.
విజ్ఞానం వరకు. జ్ఞానం తేహం సవిజ్ఞానం ఇదం వక్ష్యామ్యశేషతః.
యజ్ఞాత్వా నేహ భూయోన్యద్
జ్ఞాతవ్యమవశిష్యతే.
ప్రభుజీ, యు ఆర్ ఆన్ మ్యూట్.
మొత్తం చేయండి.
మళ్ళీ ఫస్ట్ నుండి చేయండి మాతాజీ.
సరే మాతాజీ.
జ్ఞానం తేహం సవిజ్ఞానం
ఇదం
ఇదం
వక్ష్యామ్యశేషతః
వక్ష్యామ్యశేషతః యజ్ఞాత్వా నేహ భూయోన్యత్ జ్ఞాతవ్యమవశిష్యతే.
శ్రీల ప్రభుపాదుల వారి అనువాదము. నేను నీకిప్పుడు ఈ భౌతిక ఆధ్యాత్మిక శక్తులతో కూడిన జ్ఞాన విజ్ఞానములను సంపూర్ణముగా విశదీకరించెదను. ఇక దీనిని ఎరిగిన పిమ్మట నీకు తెలుసుకోవలసినది ఏమీ మిగిలి ఉండదు. హరే కృష్ణ మాతాజీ.
హరే కృష్ణ. అట్లా చేయండి, ఇంకొకటి చేయండి.
మనుష్యాణం సహస్రేషు కశ్చిజ్జతతి సిద్ధయే యతథామపి సిద్ధానాం కశ్చిన్మాం వేత్తి తత్వతః.
శ్రీల ప్రభుపాదుల వారి అనువాదము. పలు వేలాది మనుషులలో ఎవరో ఒక్కడు మాత్రమే సంపూర్ణ సిద్ధికై యత్నించును. అట్లు సిద్ధి సాధించిన వారిలో అరుదుగా ఎవరో ఒక్కడు మాత్రమే నన్ను యథార్థముగా గ్రహించగలుగును. హరే కృష్ణ మాతాజీ.
భూమిరాపో నలో వాయు కమ్మనో బుద్ధిరేవ చ అహంకార ఇతి యం మే భిన్నా ప్రకృతిరష్టధా.
శ్రీల ప్రభుపాదుల వారి అనువాదము. భూమి, జలము, అగ్ని, వాయువు, ఆకాశము, మనస్సు, బుద్ధి మరియు అహంకారము అను ఈ 8 అంశముల సముదాయము నా భిన్న ప్రకృతి అనబడును. హరే కృష్ణ మాతాజీ.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. ప్రభుజీ. ప్రసాద్ ప్రభుజీ.
జూమ్ కనెక్ట్ అవుతుంది పర్సనల్ ల్యాప్.
ఎస్.
Yes, perfect. Let me share my screen. Hare Krishna.
ప్రభుజీ, we can see.
Yeah, excellent. 7.1 చదివాము నేను. So let's go through from 7.2. Okay, 7.2 చదివారా శ్లోకం? మాతాజీ చదివినట్టున్నారు కదా.
7.4 వరకు చదివారు మాతాజీ.
7.2, 3, 4 మూడు అయినాయి ప్రభుజీ తెలుగులో. మీరు
Yeah.
ఇంగ్లీష్లో చేయండి.
నేను సౌండ్ బాగా తక్కువ పెట్టేసి మీట్లో ఉండి జపం చేస్తాను. సో మీరు ఏం చేస్తారో నాకు తెలియదు. ఓకే, నో ప్రాబ్లం. ఓకే, 7.2. ఓకే, ఒకసారి చదవండి మాతాజీ. విల్ రీడ్ ద ట్రాన్స్లేషన్. మీకు జస్ట్ శ్లోక చదవండి చాలు. మాతాజీ ఒకసారి శ్లోక చదవండి చాలు మాతాజీ.
జ్ఞానం తేహం స విజ్ఞానం ఇదం వక్ష్యామ్యశేషతః యజ్ఞాత్వా నేహ భూయోన్యత్ జ్ఞాతవ్యమవశిష్యతే.
ఓకే, జ్ఞానం తేహం స విజ్ఞానమిదం జ్ఞానమిదం వృక్షామ్యశేషతః యజ్ఞతత్వనేహ భూయో నజ్ఞాతస్య మవశిష్యతే. ఓకే మాతాజీ చదవండి మాతాజీ, ట్రాన్స్లేషన్ చదవండి.
Yeah, translation. I shall now declare unto you in this full knowledge both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Haribol.
వెరీ నైస్. సో ఏమంటారంటే ఇక్కడ జ్ఞాన విజ్ఞానాలు రెండింటితో పాటుగా ఈ జ్ఞానంలో పూర్తిగా నీకు ఇప్పుడు నేను ప్రకటిస్తాను. ఇది తెలిసిన తర్వాత నీకు తెలుసుకోవాల్సింది ఏమీ మిగలదు. భక్తి యోగ స్టార్టింగ్ నుంచి చెప్పారు మాతాజీ. సూపర్.
Yeah.
జ్ఞాన విజ్ఞానం రెండు చెప్తారు. వెరీ నైస్, వెరీ నైస్. ప్రభుజీ 7.3 రీసెర్చ్ చేయండి ప్రభు. ట్రాన్స్లేషన్ మనుష్యాన్ని.
మనుష్యాణం సహస్రేషు కశ్చిద్యతతి సిద్ధయే యతథామపి సిద్ధానాం కశ్చిన్మాం వేత్తి తత్వతః.
వెరీ నైస్. మనుష్యానాం సహస్రేషు కశ్చిద్ యతతి సిద్ధయే యతతామపి సిద్ధానాం కశ్చిన్నాం వేత్తి తత్వతః. Okay, I will read this. Out of many thousands among men, one may endure for perfection. And those who achieve the perfection, hardly one knows me included. This is one of the పలు వేలాది మనుషుల్లో ఎవడో ఒకడు పూర్ణత్వానికే ప్రయత్నిస్తాడు. పలు వేలాది మనుషుల్లో ఎవరో ఒకడు మాత్రమే పూర్ణత్వానికి ప్రయత్నిస్తాడు. అలా పూర్ణత్వం సాధించిన వాళ్ళు అరుదుగా ఒకడు నన్ను యథార్థంగా తెలుసుకుంటాడు. అంటే ఎంత ఫిల్టరేషన్ జరుగుతుందో చూడండి ఇక్కడ. సో ఫస్ట్ థౌజండ్స్ ఆఫ్ పీపుల్లో ఒకళ్ళకి ఎవరికో పర్ఫెక్షన్ వస్తుంది. ఆ పర్ఫెక్షన్ వచ్చిన వాళ్ళందరూ ఆయన తెలుసుకోలేరంట. ఆ పర్ఫెక్షన్ వచ్చిన వాళ్ళందరూ వేలల్లో మళ్ళీ ఎవరో ఒకళ్ళు మాత్రమే కృష్ణుడిని తెలుసుకోగలుగుతారంట. సో కోట్లో ఒకడు అనుకోవచ్చాము అయితే, 1,00,00,000కి ఒక పర్సన్.
అట్లా కూడా ఇండియాలో మొత్తం 140 కోట్లకు అంతమంది పోలేరు ప్రభుజీ.
160 మంది ఉండొచ్చు అప్పుడు.
పోలేరు
లేదా
అంత కూడా.
ఇస్కాన్ ఉంది కాబట్టి 1,00,00,000కి 10 మంది వేసుకోండి, లేదా 1,00,00,000కి 100 మంది వేసుకోండి. బట్ ఇట్స్ వెరీ వెరీ రేర్.
భక్తులు అవుతారు, భక్తులు అయిన తర్వాత మళ్ళా మొత్తం
పూర్ణత్వం అవ్వాలి కదా, పూర్ణత్వం అవ్వాలి.
అక్కడికి రానికి
పూర్ణత్వం
లేదంటే ఈ
తర్వాత
స్టేజెస్ అన్ని
అదే
పెరుగుతూనే ఉంటాయి.
సో అక్కడ చాలా డిఫికల్ట్. చదవండి
గొప్పగా భక్తి చేసినాం అనుకుంటున్నాం కానీ మనం చేసినంత ఒక 10% కూడా ఉంటుందో లేదు మరి.
అది పూర్ణత్వం అవ్వాలి, కంప్లీట్ అవ్వాలి, పర్ఫెక్షన్ అవ్వాలి.
ఇంకా 90% పైన చేయాలి మనం ఎంత
అంటే
ఇస్కాన్లో
కంప్లీట్లీ సరెండర్ ఏం కావాలి.
కంప్లీట్లీ సరెండర్ అనేది కాలేదు. అయిన వాడంటే చాలా సంతోషం ఉంటా కృష్ణుడికి. శరణాగతి పొందినారు, సరెండర్ అయినారు, అటువంటి వాళ్ళు ఒక 10 కోట్లు కొమ్ముకొని ఉంటారేమో.
ప్రభు చదవండి ప్రభు, 4th చదవండి.
భూమిరాపో నలో వాయు కమ్మనో బుద్ధిరేవచ అహంకార ఇతి యమ్మే భిన్నా ప్రకృతిరష్టదా.
వెరీ నైస్. ఓకే, ట్రాన్స్లేషన్ ఏమన్నా చదువుతారా? హరే కృష్ణ.
I'll read Prabhuji. Translation. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 constitute my separated material energies.
ఏమంటున్నారండి ఇక్కడ? భూమి, జలము, అగ్ని, వాయువు, ఆకాశం, మనస్సు, బుద్ధి మరియు విద్యాహంకారం అనే 8 అంశాల యొక్క సముదాయం నా భిన్న ప్రకృతిని ఏర్పాటు చేస్తుంది. మై సెపరేటెడ్ మెటీరియల్ ఎనర్జీస్. ఇది సెపరేటెడ్ మెటీరియల్ ఎనర్జీస్ ఏంటి అంటే ఈ 8 అని చెప్తున్నారు అనమాట. ఏంటది? భూమి, నీరు, నిప్పు, గాలి, ఆకాశం, మైండ్, ఇంటెలిజెన్స్ అంటే మనస్సు, బుద్ధి, అహంకారం. అహంకారంలో కూడా ఫాల్స్ ఈగో. మీ అందరూ తెలుసు కదా ఫాల్స్ ఈగో, మిథ్యాహంకారం అన్నారు తెలుగు. ఫాల్స్ అహంకారానికి ట్రూ అహంకారంగా తేడా. ఫాల్స్ అహంకారం, ఐఎమ్ దిస్ బాడీ, ఓకే, I want to enjoy, that is false ego. So I am servant to Krishna, that is true ego. I am soul, I am subservient. దాసాను దాస ఎవరికి? భగవంతుడికి, అది ట్రూ ఈగో. సో ఇది ఫాల్స్ ఈగో అని చెప్తుంది అనమాట. ఇది ఆయన యొక్క సెపరేటెడ్ మెటీరియల్ ఎనర్జీ అనమాట. 8 కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్ ఆఫ్ ఈజ్ మై సెపరేటెడ్ మెటీరియల్ ఎనర్జీ. సో ఆయన స్పిరిచువల్ ఎనర్జీలో 8 ఉండవు. వెరీ నైస్. ఓకే, లెట్స్ స్టాప్ హియర్. భగవద్గీత ఇక్కడ దాకా చదివినామండి నేను. మనం సత్యనారాయణ ఇక్కడ దాకా చదివినాం. ఓకే, హీ వాజ్ లుక్డ్ ఎట్ ద ఎవ్రీథింగ్ అండ్ సెడ్ there should be hundreds of buses like this, and it was not, but he really liked it. Okay, సత్స్వరూప దాస గోస్వామి ఇక్కడి నుంచి చదువుతాం. ఓకే, హరే కృష్ణ. ప్రభుపాద లీలామృతంకి జై. సో ఇది ఎక్కడున్నామంటే ఈ చాప్టర్లో ఉన్నామంటే, సో he was Prabhupada wants to construct that Juhi temple which was there in Mumbai, but he was being forced to go to our world trip where he visited so many temples But wherever he visited, he was thinking only about that Mumbai, Juhu temple. That is what it has been talking about. Around the world, he is around the world, but absorbed in Mumbai. Yeah, yeah, that is what we are reading. Okay. Anybody wants to start? Mahatma Ramachandra Prabhu, you want to start, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna
Okay.
Prabhuji, okay Prabhuji. Danda Pranam.
Start
Hare
change,
Krishna.
Prabhu. You can start change.
Satyanara Sattva Satswarupa Dasa Goswami. I saw different leading devotees go down to that house to see Sri Prabhupada on important business. I had no important business that had not been answered by him in letters, but I began to feel anxious that I was not going to him while others were. Finally, one day, my anxiety grew so great that I decided I would go and see His divine grace. When I arrived at the door of the house, Prabhupada's servant gladly let me in, and in a moment I was seated before Srila Prabhupada. He was seated to take his message. Massage, sorry, Hare Krishna. I expressed it to Srila Prabhupada that I had no very urgent questions to ask him in particular, but that I had become anxious to see him, and so I had come. Prabhupada replied that I should know better than to come to him out of such anxiety. He said he had already answered everything in his books. Actually, this was very inspiring. On the one hand, he was telling me that as an older devotee, I should be assured that by studying his books, everything was there. Not that out of anxiety I should feel a lacking and on an impulse have to personally see my Guru.
Wow, very nice.
But yes.
Continue.
But now, since I was in his presence, Srila Prabhupada asked me, "What are you doing?" When Srila Prabhupada said that, I got the strong impression that he was regarding me in the proper place as a tiny fool. Here I had just been initiated sannyasa and I was coming before Prabhupada with my assistant and asking for his attention. Now that I had asked for his attention, he gave me a surveillance glance. And by his question, he seemed to imply that I was doing nothing or very, very little to spread Krishna consciousness. That was how I interpreted his question. What are you doing? I replied that I was according to to the instruction that I had received from him in a letter going from temple to temple in my zone and implementing his desire that students there study the Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning class. I had previously felt very confident that I was exactly following direct orders I had been given in a letter from him. But to my surprise, in that room in New Vrindavan, he began to tell me that visiting temples was not the most important thing. He said that he was pleased with the programs of Vishnujana Maharaja, who was traveling on a bus. He said I should do like that.
Okay.
I,
చదవండి బ్రో పర్లేదు
I
తక్కువ
immediately
మందే ఉన్నాము
replied,
Yeah.
okay, bro. I immediately replied, then your instruction that I should go to the different temples is not very important. I should take a bus. And Srila Prabhupada became annoyed and said, it is not that because one thing is more important, the other thing is less important. Everything is important. Not that just because I say this is important to travel in a bus, now you say traveling to the temples is not important. Krishna's head is important and Krishna's foot is important. Everything about him is important. Haribol. Next step, Raviji. You can.
While
While Prabhupada participated fully, both formally and informally, at a New Vrindavan, he still carried a special burden of concern for Bombay. Although he had appointed GBC secretaries to oversee the Krishna consciousness movement in various parts of the world, he was the real GBC secretary of India. Wherever he traveled, therefore, he remained partial to those projects.
Okay.
He was setting the perfect example of a GBC secretary. While conscientiously, conscientiously tending to practical affairs, he remained always transcendental, fully dependent on Krishna, and always preaching. After drafting a telegram to Giriraja or hearing of difficulties in Bombay, he would immediately return to his peaceful routine and active preaching. He would take his late morning massage bath, put on tilaka methodically and delicately, say his Gayatri mantra with silent composure, take his prasadam, rest for an hour, and in the evening, after a full day's activities, go into the temple room of whatever temple he happened to be in, sit on the Vyasasana and chant Jayradha Madhava and speak pure Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Wonderful video. Hare Krishna. Okay. Okay. Srihat Prabhu Jainayaro. Hare Krishna. Srihat Prabhu Chautara.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Damat Pranam.
Chadan Joshi. Hare Krishna.
నా వాయిస్ క్లియర్గానే ఉంది ప్రభుజీ.
Yes, bro. Very clear. Chadan.
September 8th. After New Vrindavan, Prabhupada went to Pittsburgh, where he attended a successful engagement at a large hall, the Syria Mosque. He also met with a Catholic bishop, whom he asked, why do Christians kill cows in slaughterhouses and thus break the commandment, thou shalt not kill? Prabhupada had often asked this question of Christian priests and was always unsatisfied with the answer. This was no exception. In an informal gathering in his room, Prabhupada stressed outgoing preaching programs, and he advised his newly initiated sannyasis present to follow the example of their godbrother Vishnujana Swami, to travel in a bus from town to town and hold festivals and distribute books and magazines. September 9. The devotees in Dallas had purchased a large church facility and were forming the first ISKCON children's school, known as Gurukula. Prabhupada, while traveling in India during 1971 and 1972, had sent a series of letters to the Dallas teachers explaining the basic direction he wanted them to take for beginning a Krishna conscious primary school. We will teach the basic requirements of reading and writing, but also give them a spiritual knowledge, how to live perfectly. What other school of learning offers such a wonderful education opportunity? Last night, the topic of my lecture at our Delhi Pandal was necessity for teaching Krishna consciousness in all our schools and colleges. This is a revolutionary thought. But we have seen that the practical outcome of so much godless education in technology and science is that they are producing only hippies, one after another. What is the use of their skyscraper buildings if their son will not maintain them? The old system of Gurukula should be revived as the perfect example of a system designed to produce great men, sober and responsible leaders. who know what is the real welfare of citizens. Just as in formal days, all big personalities were trained in this way. Now you have got the responsibility to inject this idea in your country. Please do it with a cool head, and very soon we shall see the practical benefit for your countrymen. ఇంకా చదవాలి ప్రభుజీ.
చదవండి చదవండి.
These letters had assured the Dallas devotees that they were doing the most important work for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. The school had gained support from other ISKCON members, and many parents had sent their children. By the same time of Srila Prabhupada's visit, about 50 students were enrolled. Prabhupada said, Dallas weather reminded him of Calcutta. Even though he felt uncomfortably hot, disdaining the use of air conditioning, he shed his kurta and sat on the lawn with his inexperienced but eager group of leaders. The best system of education, he said, was as he had known as a child. One teacher in a room with up to 50 students of various ages and aptitudes. One at a time, the students would come to the teacher's desk, receive guidance and a further assignment, and then return to work. The Gurukula teachers were particularly concerned and puzzled about how to discipline children without being punitive, and Prabhupada unhesitatingly solved all their puzzles. He said the students should both fear and love their teachers. The teacher, by stern countenance, may threaten an unruly child and make him submit, but the teacher should not hit the child. The next day, Srila Prabhupada went into a classroom and sat on a cushion before the class, holding a backboard pointer in each hand. He joked that one stick could be used for hitting the students' heads and the other for hitting their hands. The children and teachers became delighted to see Prabhupada's playful mood. And when he asked if anyone wanted to get hit, both teachers and students moved forward, holding their hands out for a merciful slap from Srila Prabhupada. To demonstrate how to teach, Prabhupada called for a volunteer. Dwarakadisha came forward. Prabhupada, placing his vulnerable hand over the boys guided him repeatedly in forming the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet. News of Bombay followed Prabhupada to Dallas. A devotee who had recently come to the west from Bombay informed Prabhupada of Giriraja's recent talk of resigning a president of the center. Depressed by his ineffectiveness in dealing with Mr. N, the lawyers and the government, and harassed by bickering and uncooperative devotees, he was considering himself unworthy to keep the charge. Now Giriraja's anxiety became Prabhupada's, as again he concerned himself with all the affairs of his Juhu project. There seemed to be no one he could discuss this with, since the devotees in America knew almost nothing of matters in Bombay. The night was too hot for sleeping, and Prabhupada could not concentrate on translating Srimad Bhagavatam. So he stayed up late, talking with his secretary about Bombay, surmising the mind and mood of Mr. N, and expressing his concern for his Hare Krishna land and his wonder at the devotees' hesitation and disheartenment. He turned the argument this way and that, considering it in different lights, until in the early morning he finally put it aside. Afterward, he composed another telegram. Settle land immediately at the best price possible, and promise to pay it. If he won't, we can pay. Suggest 15,000 Don't change presidency until I come. Large
చదవండి.
marble deities of చదవాలా ప్రభుజీ?
చదువు.
Large marble deities of Radha and Krishna arrived in Dallas by trailer from New York. Prabhupada had specifically selected these deities for Dallas Gurukula while in India and ordered them to be shipped to United States. The Krishna deity was magnificent. He was tall, bigger than most ISKCON deities, and his limbs and head were strikingly large. According to one story, the deity was several hundred years old and therefore carved according to the ancient tradition. Even though the devotees in Dallas were unprepared to install Radha Krishna deities, Prabhupada told them to get ready in 2 days for the installation, which he would personally perform. Janava Devidasi, however, unauthorizedly removed the original paint from the deities and began to repaint them. When Prabhupada heard this, he became furious. He called the Dallas president Satswarupa Dasa Goswami to his room and demanded an explanation. Satsarupa said that he was a fool, but that Janava had also acted without his permission. Prabhupada then called for Janava and yelled at her furiously. She began to cry. Why you have done this? Srila Prabhupada demanded. Nonsense. Nonsense was her choked reply. Nonsense? Srila Prabhupada affirmed. Suicidal nonsense? You are a nonsense and you will always remain a nonsense. So what are you going to do about this? Well, Srila Prabhupada, Janava replied weakly. I called up Bharadwaja in Los Angeles and he said if I use a certain kind of paint. Bharadwaja, Prabhupada yelled. Who is this Bharadwaja? I am your spiritual master and I am sitting before you. Why do you not ask me? Disgusted. He then turned to the others in the room. So what is to be done about this? One of the ladies said that with a quick drying paint, they could repaint the deities just as before in time for installation. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, do it immediately. Janava stayed up all night, carefully repainting the deities as before. Early the next morning, which was to be the morning of deity installation, Krishna looked very beautiful, although his body was tacky in spots from the fresh paint. During that morning's walk around White Rock Lake, while talking philosophically about various topics, Prabhupada turned casually to Satswarupa Maharaj and asked about the preparations for the installation. When Satswarupa said he was uncertain whether Krishna's paint would be dry enough, Prabhupada suddenly stopped. If deities weren't ready, he said, there was no use in his staying any longer in Dallas. Turning to his secretary, he told him to change their flight reservations as soon as possible. Satswarupa begged forgiveness and said that maybe everything could still be done on schedule. Prabhupada's angry mood changed and he continued walking, talking about other matters. Later in his room, Prabhupada talked alone to Satswarupa, continuing on the point of his morning lecture about materialistic life. In a casual way, as most people would talk about ordinary things, Prabhupada spoke of the foolishness of conditioned souls. They think just by having a big family and being absorbed in mundane activities, they do not have to concern themselves with the death or with the next life. As Prabhupada spoke, he shook his head in disbelief. considering the incredulous position of the materialist.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful reading. Okay. లలిత మోహన్ ప్రభు జాయిన్ అయ్యారు. రాజు ప్రభు ఉన్నారు. వీళ్ళిద్దరూ చదవచ్చు.
నేను చదవను
రాజు
ప్రభుజీ.
ప్రభు లలిత మోహన్ ప్రభు చదువుతారా?
నేను చదువుతున్నా ప్రభుజీ. All of Prabhupada's disciples noted the same amazing thing about him. Wherever he went, his consciousness was always in transcendence. Whether staying up late worrying and talking about Bombay, or criticizing devotees for repainting the deity, his mind was ever moving from one Krishna conscious consideration to another. The devotees with him would sometimes observe in his awesome Krishna consciousness from a respectful distance. At other times, they might, in the name of service, speak up and become more personally involved, or they might find themselves thrust under the direct scrutiny of his demanding attention. No one could presume or accurately predict in what way Prabhupada would act in his constant grave service to his spiritual master. While sitting with Swaswarupa Maharaja, Prabhupada began humming and singing a Sanskrit phrase from the morning's Bhagavatam class. Griheshu grihamedhinam. Then he asked, "So, how is the deity?" Satswarupa said, he thought he was dry. Prabhupada stood and walked into the room where Jahanava was examining the repainted deity. Calmly, he stood before Radha and Krishna, singing to himself. "Yes," he said, "now it's all right." Later that morning, in the temple room, Prabhupada sat on his Vyasasana and installed Radha and Krishna, reciting the prayers from Brahma Samhita. He then offered the first arati to the deities, who had been hastily dressed and placed on an almost bare altar. Prabhupada seemed pleased, however, and later went up to his room and wrote on a piece of paper, "Radha Kalchandji, the deities of Dallas, September 12, 1972, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami." Kalchandji, he said, meant black moon. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
I'll read Prabhuji.
చదవండి.
వినిపిస్తుందా ప్రభుజీ నా వాయిస్?
Yes, వినపడుతుంది.
Yeah. Prabhupada was preparing to return soon to India via western route, and he paid another visit to his western world headquarters in Los Angeles. On the way, on the very day he arrived, however, he wrote more direction to the devotees in Bombay, reassuring them the Juhu land was not just a trouble spot but a special place where a great plan would be carried out. It was worth fighting for. Now I am anxious to hear if the convenience deed has been signed and what are the contents. Kindly send me the copy duly signed as quickly as possible. This will give me great relief. As soon as the conveyance has been signed, you may begin the building work immediately. I am coming to India soon, at least by October, and I want to see that the building projects in Bombay, Mayapur, Vrindavan are going on nicely. This Bombay project is one of our most important projects in the world, and I am looking to you and others there in Bombay to see that it is done very magnificently. Prabhupada's secretary had recently shown him a new advertisement booklet printed by Air India in which the art team was exclusively dedicated to Krishna in Vrindavana. Prabhupada was encouraged to see that Air India was enticing tourists to come to India experience Krishna culture. This confirmed his idea that the future Hare Krishna land and his other Indian projects would be important to showpieces for tourists wanting to experience real Vedic culture. Mail from Bombay always received first priority, and every morning Prabhupada would ask for his news from Bombay, giving any letter from Giriraja immediate attention. Early in October, he received a long letter from Giriraja. We just cannot control material nature, and although everything is going in on slow, Mr. Morarji Mr. Muni, the bank, and Mr. N all feel that they are proceeding as quickly as possible, and they do not respond very favorably to bring over-minded by me of the urgency of the matter and your anxiety that is to be finished. Nothing new had developed. The deed still had not been signed. Can I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, continue.
Yeah. Although Giriraja said he was now had no intentions of resigning his post, Prabhupada, after studying the letter, concluded that other senior devotees in India should also help. He therefore wrote to Tamalkrishna Goswami and Bhavananda, both in Vrindavan, asking them to immediately go to India and try to expedite the convenience. Prabhupada was asking Tamalkrishna Goswami to revive his active status as a manager in India. Giriraja is finding difficulty from his letter. I cannot understand. So I think you have to revive your position as a GBC again and look after all the business of India affairs nicely. Prabhupada also wrote Giriraja informing him that other devotees were coming to help and remaining him also work with the board of trustees. I cannot I cannot tax my brain so much from such distant places as what to do if there are any difficulty. Therefore, I am relying completely on you. Relying completely on you, my trusted senior disables to finish up these things nicely. Can I continue, Prabhuji?
చదవండి ఒక పేరా చదవండి.
Yeah. Prabhupada repeatedly instructed the managers in Bombay not to deviate from the terms of the purchase agreement. He was willing, as a matter of concession, to pay the 5 lakhs to be deducted from the total price, but no more changes. The devotee should press Mr. N to the original agreement. Thank you, Prabhu.
థ్యాంక్ యూ బ్రో. ఓకే.
సో లక్ష్మణ్ ప్రభుజీ ఇక్కడ మిస్టర్ ఎన్ అని ఉంది కదా, మిస్టర్ ఎన్ అంటే అంటే మోసం చేస్తారంటారు కదా ప్రభుజీ?
అదే కదా,
వీడు
అదే జరుగుతుంది.
ఏబి నాయర్, వీడు జర్నలిస్ట్ వర్క్.
నాయర్ అతను
ఏంటి ప్రభుజీ?
ఏబి నాయర్ అని, వీడు ఫ్రీ ప్రెస్ జనరల్ ఉంటారు కదా, ఎఫ్పిజే. మీరు విన్నారా? ఫ్రీ ప్రెస్ జనరల్ అని పేపర్ ఉండేది, ఎఫ్పిజే. దాని జర్నలిస్ట్ వీడు, సీనియర్ ఎడిటర్ అనమాట. అది కాకుండా కూడా షరీఫ్, ముంబై షరీఫ్ అనమాట వీడు ఒకప్పుడు. షరీఫ్ అంటే ఫారెన్ డిగ్రీ. ఇప్పుడు మేయర్ తెలుసా ప్రభు మీకు? సిటీ మేయర్ ఉంటారు కదా, సిటీ మేయర్ తర్వాత సిటీ షరీఫ్ వస్తారనమాట. ఇది వరకు బాంబేలో. అండ్ అది వీడికి అగెన్స్ట్ గా బాల్ ఠాకరే ఉండేవాడు. వాడికి అసలు ఎప్పుడు పడేది కాదనమాట. వీడంతా అంతే ఇట్లా షెడీ డీల్స్ చేస్తూ ఉండేవాడు. యాక్చువల్లీ దిస్ గై ఇస్ ఎ మలయాళీ. ఓకే. వీడికి ఆపోజిట్ లో బాల్ ఠాకరే ఉండేవాడు అనమాట. వాడికి ఇట్లా వీళ్ళు వచ్చి మొత్తం అంతా కంట్రోల్ చేస్తున్నారు ఇక్కడ, అన్ని షేడీ డీల్సే మొత్తం అన్ని వీడికి. ప్లస్ అది కాకుండా జర్నలిస్ట్ కదా, షేడీ ప్రభు. షేడీ అంటే ఏది కూడా తిన్నగా ఉండదు అనమాట. ఇప్పుడు వీళ్ళకి మాట ఇచ్చాడు కదా, మాట ఇచ్చినందుకు వాళ్ళు అడ్వాన్స్ ఇచ్చారు. ఎవరికి? ఇస్కాన్ వాళ్ళకి మాట ఇచ్చాడు ఇప్పుడు వీడు, అవునా? వాళ్ళు అడ్వాన్స్ ఇచ్చారు. అడ్వాన్స్ ఇచ్చాక వీడు ఏమంటాడు, ఇప్పుడు నీకు ఆ పర్మిషన్ లేదు, నీకు ఈ పర్మిషన్ లేదు, అవన్నీ తెచ్చుకో ఫస్ట్ అంటాడు.
ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ,
అవునా? అవన్నీ తెచ్చేసాక ఇప్పుడు వీడు ఎవరెవరి దగ్గరికి అయితే పంపిస్తాడో వాళ్ళందరూ కూడా ముందు ఆల్రెడీ సెట్టింగ్ చేసి పెట్టాడు అనమాట వీడు.
అవునవును, వాళ్ళు ఇవ్వరు పర్మిషన్స్.
ఇలా ఆల్రెడీ 2-3 డీల్స్ అయినాయి ముందే వీడితోటి అందరికి, జనాలకి. వాళ్ళు ముందే చెప్పారు వీడు మామూలుడు కాదు, వీడితో పెట్టుకోవద్దు అని. కానీ ప్రభుపాద్కేమో ల్యాండ్ అక్కడే కావాలని అనిపించింది అనమాట. ఇప్పుడు కాదు, లీగ్ ఆఫ్ డివోటీ టైమ్స్ నుంచి ప్రభుపాద్ అక్కడ మనకి ల్యాండ్ ఉంటే మంచిది అని అనుకున్నారు కదా. అది నాయర్వాడి అనేవారు ప్రభు అప్పట్లో దాన్ని. ఇప్పుడంటే జూహు అంటారు, జూహూర్లో నాయర్వాడి అనమాట. అది ఆ నాయర్వాడి అంటే ఎక్కువ నాయర్స్ ఉండేవారు అక్కడ. కేరళ నాయర్స్ అందరూ వచ్చి అక్కడ ఉండేవారు అనమాట. అట్లా ఉన్న వాళ్ళల్లో ఒకడు పెద్ద మనిషిడు. వీడు ఫుల్ బిజినెస్ మైండెడ్ అనమాట. జనరల్ గా డీల్స్ అన్ని
లీగల్స్ కూడా చాలా తెలుసు అంట. నిన్న ఒక టాపిక్ వచ్చింది, హి హాస్ సో మచ్ ఆఫ్ లీగల్ నాలెడ్జ్ అండ్ ఆల్ దట్ తెలుసు అని చెప్పాడు.
అరే ప్రభుజీ, జర్నలిస్ట్ ఎవడైతే ఉంటాడో వాడికి అన్ని నాలెడ్జ్ ఉంటది కదా. వీడు సెకండ్ వరల్డ్ వార్, ఫస్ట్ వరల్డ్ వార్ నుంచి జర్నలిస్ట్. వీడు జర్నలిస్ట్, ఎడిటర్ ప్లస్ బిజినెస్ మ్యాన్. ఇంకా అన్ని తెలుసుంటాయి కదా మొత్తం.
Yeah.
అన్ని తెలిసి ఇప్పుడు
He makes money,
వీళ్ళందరూ
but
ఫారెన్
he doesn't do the registration. Actual registration చేయడు.
అరే ఫుల్ గా లాగేద్దామని ల్యాండ్ ఇవ్వకుండా
Okay.
మొత్తం డీడ్స్ లాగేద్దామని అనుకున్నాడు అనమాట.
Hmm.
పెద్ద పెంట అవుతుంది ముందు ఇంకా ఇది.
Hmm.
ఇంతకుముందే వచ్చింది కదా ప్రభుజీ, మిస్టర్ ఎన్ గురించి అప్పట్లో కూడా వచ్చింది కదా ప్రభుజీ, మనం ఇంతకుముందు చదివినాం అప్పుడు. మళ్ళీ ఇప్పుడు అంటే
అప్పుడు డీలింగ్స్ చేశాడు అనమాట, స్టార్ట్ చేశాడు అప్పుడు. ఇప్పుడు 1972 యాక్చువల్గా ఎలా చనిపోతాడు ఏంటి చెప్తారు ఇప్పుడు.
మిస్టర్ ఎన్
మిస్టర్ ఎన్
ఓకే.
వెళ్ళిపోతాడు.
ఇది
ఇప్పుడు
వాళ్ళ
కాదు,
దగ్గర న్యూస్
కొద్దిసేపు
పేపర్స్ అన్ని ఉన్నాయి కదా ప్రభు. ఇట్లా
వద్దంటారా
హరే కృష్ణ
రాజు ప్రభు వద్దంటారా ఇక్కడ ఇప్పుడు మిస్టర్ ఎన్?
లేదు ప్రభుజీ, అంటే ఇంతకుముందు కూడా అయినాం ఒకసారి మిస్టర్ ఎన్ గురించి ఇంతకుముందు.
మిస్టర్ ఎన్ ద్వారానే మొత్తం స్టోరీ ప్రభు. యాక్చువల్లీ ఈజ్ వెరీ హార్ట్ రెంచింగ్. ప్రభుపాద ప్రభుపాద క్రైడ్ హీ వాంట్స్ టు హ్యావ్ దిస్ ల్యాండ్, జుహు ల్యాండ్. మిస్టర్ ఎన్ నుంచి ఎట్లయినా కృష్ణ ఇంటర్వెన్షన్ ఉంది అక్కడ జుహు టెంపుల్ దగ్గర.
ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ కరెక్ట్. యా, నెక్స్ట్ కూడా చదువుదాం.
నేను చదవనా ప్రభు?
చదవండి ప్లీజ్.
Thank you, Prabhu. Last 3 days. Very good. Thank
No
you so much.
problem.
Prabhupada was worried that he had not heard from his lawyer, Mr. D. 2 weeks before, he had telegrammed both Mr. N and Mr. D, asking for reports on the delays. But he had received no replies from either of them. He had since returned to another lawyer, a friend in Bombay, asking about the delay. And in Los Angeles, he received the reply Mr. D was no longer his attorney. A couple of days after receiving this shocking news, Prabhupada received a formal letter from the office of Mr. D informing him of the same. Of all the recent news from Bombay.
కొంచెం వాయిస్ తక్కువ ఉంది బ్రో.
Yeah. So, ఇప్పుడు ఓకేనా ప్రభు? Yeah.
ఇప్పుడు ఓకే.
Of all the recent news from Bombay, this was the most disturbing. Yeah. Prabhupada began to see how Mr. N had been devising a devious plot from the beginning. It was not just a matter of slowness or bureaucratic delay. Mr. D had been in league with Mr. N. They were cheaters. So now it was going to be a real fight. ISKCON would have to go to court and file criminal charges against Mr. N. There was no avoiding the fight. But Prabhupada still felt that his position was legally very strong. Before leaving Los Angeles, Prabhupada thought of a further tactic. He wrote to Giriraja that he should put a notice in the newspapers advising the public that ISKCON had signed an agreement for purchasing Mr. N's land at Juhu. He then traveled to Berkeley, New York. Berkeley is California. October 6, during his brief visit to Berkeley, Prabhupada met with a group of professors from the University of California and also installed Radha Krishna deities in the Berkeley temple. But still, he was meditating on Bombay. He wrote to Tamala Krishna Goswami, "The Bombay dealing has been muddled by the tactics of Mr. N and Mr. D. Giriraja is in trouble. He is a child in these worldly dealings. So immediately go to help him. But you must be careful to pay the money to the in the court registrar's office and not in the hand of Mr. N or his solicitor. Settle up the things properly. Otherwise, let us go to the court for a specific action, either civic or criminal, against the tactics of Mr. N." Prabhupada decided to send Karandhara, whom he considered expert, to help in Bombay. He also wanted to send Shamsundara, but Shamsundara had gone to London regarding a large country estate George Harrison was donating. Prabhupada notified Shamsundara, however, that once the London transaction was completed, he should go to Bombay. Prabhupada was ready for the fight. He would not be cheated. During his return trip to India, Prabhupada again visited Hawaii. Then on October 11, he went for the first time to Philippines. where a small number of disciples had arranged preaching programs for him, both in the temple and at the Hotel Intercontinental. In Manila, Prabhupada carefully considered his position regarding the Juhu property and concluded that he would come out victorious. He listed the points of his argument in a letter to Giriraja. Number one, how many Prabhu? Prabhupada. Number one, very nice.
8 ఉన్నాయి ప్రభు చదవండి.
Yeah, wonderful. It's so nice, huh? This was in the Philippines. We have fulfilled all the conditions as purchaser. Mr. N has purposefully delayed with a motive to cheat us, as he had done with some others in this connection. But this time he cannot cheat. He cannot cheat us because we are in possession of the land and our deity Radha Krishna is installed there. Therefore, we must immediately go to the court for enforcing him to execute the conveyance immediately. Number 5. Even if the court case goes on for a long time, still our business there cannot be stopped because worshipping already started. Radha Krishna deities. Yeah. Sixth one. Without going to the court, we cannot make any compromise with him. But I think we can arrange the full amount of 14 lakhs. That time 14 lakhs is a very big money. This was in 1970s devotees, right?
Very
Yeah.
very big.
Very big money. But I think we can arrange the full amount of 14 lakhs to get out this rascal out of the scene. Yeah, but we cannot do it without going to the court. Otherwise, we shall become a party for breaking the purchase agreement. Therefore, we have to go to the court before making any compromise. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. For 40th chapter, right? Sri Prabhupada
Yes,
Lilamrita, volume 2, 40th chapter. So perfect. ఇంకో చాప్టర్ కూడా చదువుదాము బట్ యూ ఆల్ కంటిన్యూ. ఐ విల్.
Yeah.
థ్యాంక్ యూ.
ఓకే. చాప్టర్ 41 ద బ్యాటిల్ ఫర్ బాంబే చదువుదాం ప్రభు. యా, ఇంకా కొంతమంది చదవలేదు. ఓకే, ఒక్క నిమిషం, ఐమ్ జస్ట్ చెకింగ్ ప్రభు. ఓకే, సరస్వతి మాతాజీ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తారా ఇది ఈ కొత్త చాప్టర్తో?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Chapter 41, The Battle for Bombay, Vrindavana, October 17, 1972. Prabhupada had come to Vrindavana to observe the Kartika session from October 16 to November 14. He planned to lecture daily at the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami in the courtyard of the Radha Damodar temple, speaking from the Nectar of Devotion, his own translation of Rupa Goswami's book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. On his western tour, he had invited devotees to join him for Kartika in Vrindavana, and now a few dozen devotees from America, Europe, India, and other parts of the world had gathered to be with him. He was concerned with developing his Vrindavana project, so rather than immediately rushing to Bombay, he had come here first, sending some of his leading disciples to tackle the problems in Bombay. Now, like a general engaged on a different front, he awaited word from his lieutenants in Bombay. He moved into his 2 small rooms at the Radha Damodara temple, while his disciples stayed nearby in the former palace of the Maharaja of Bharatpur, an old building near the Yamuna. Although Prabhupada was introducing his disciples to Vrindavana, he was also introducing the residents of Vrindavana to his disciples. Introducing to his disciples to Vrindavana, he was also introducing the residents of Vrindavana to his disciples. Already his group was encountering some of the same attitudes. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and his party of the pilgrims had met in 1932. The people's refusal to accept low-born persons as Vaishnavas. Prabhupada trusted, however, that if his disciple could construct a wonderful temple for the Krishna and Balram, the heart of the Vrindavana residents would change, and they would accept his disciples. He tolerated the roughness and slowness of his disciples, and when Vrindavana residents came to see him, he humbly requested they also overlook his disciples' fault and recognize them as genuine devotees of Krishna. After all, they had given up sinful life and were regularly chanting the holy names of God. Prabhupada lectured both morning and evening, sitting on the simple asana about 2 feet high, a bare bulb suspended over his head. Prabhupada would address his disciples and the few interested guests who sat before him. Some of the devotees had speculated that since they were now in Vrindavana, Prabhupada would probably talk on highly elevated spiritual topics such as Krishna Rasa with the gopis. But it was not so. Rather, one of his disciples would read from the Nectar of Devotion, and Prabhupada would interject extensive philosophical comments on attaining pure love of Krishna through the successive stages of Bhakti Yoga. While Prabhupada talks were especially for his disciple, he also stressed that the Brahmanas of India accept the Western Vaishnavas. And he cited dozens of scriptural references to prove his point that birth status, being a material designation, did not apply in spiritual life. Stressing preaching as the essence of Krishna consciousness, he urged the disciples present to continue propagating the Krishna conscious movement. Prabhupada disciples were thrilled by these talks and by Prabhupada's personal dealings with them in the intimate atmosphere of his room at the Radha Damodara temple, which he referred to as his eternal residence, the place where he had actually begun his plans for the Krishna consciousness movement. His disciple could hear him rise early and begin translating Srimad Bhagavatam and dictating his purports. At Arati time, he would open the shutter of his room and behold the deities. At other times, the devotee might see him walking on the terrace chanting japa, and they found him always available to answer their question and help them with their personal problem.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful reading.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay. Lalita Madhavi Mataji. Chadam Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Chadam Mataji.
Tamal Krishna Goswami, Shyam Sundara, and Karandara arrived in Bombay. Things had worsened. Giraja informed them when Mr. N had seen the notice in the newspaper publicly advising that ISKCON had entered into the agreement for the Juhu property. He had become furious. Giraja had gone to him with folded hands and bowed down before him, but Mr. N would not be appeased. He had gone back on all his promises and had cancelled the sales agreement on the plea that the devotees had not obtained the deed within a 6-month period. The 2 lakh down payment he had claimed was now his, and the devotees should vacate the land immediately. Mr. N had shut off the water supply to Hare Krishna land. Several days later, a hoodlum had shown up at the entrance to the property, brandishing a machete. Whenever devotees passed by, a friend of Mr. N had printed a handbill ascribing scandalous behavior of the American Hare Krishna devotees and was having it distributed at the nearby Ville Parle train station. Although a few devotees had left and others wanted to, about 30 devotees still remained in Bombay. The first thing to do, Karandara said, was to find a new lawyer, and he went to Bombay's most prominent solicitors and hired a specialist in land transaction and conveyances. Next, the leading devotees and their solicitor met with Mr. M in his office, and Mr. N was stubborn and uncooperative, and the ISKCON lawyer was threatening. A court battle seemed inevitable. Tamal Krishna Goswami, Karandara, Bhavananda, and Shyamsundara talked together. and the more they talked, the more they began to see the entire Juhu scheme as impossible, even without Mr. N's treachery. Just to live on the land was very difficult. The devotees and the deities had such a poor living facilities that the roof leaked and the cement floor was crumbling. Rats, flies, cockroaches, village dogs, and mosquitoes infested the place, with even an occasional poisonous snake. Devotees were always contracting tropical diseases, especially malaria and hepatitis. So, although ISKCON's new lawyer was prepared to take the case to court, the devotees were hesitant. Mr. N had said that they, not he, were criminals because they had not gotten permission from the charity commissioner. Were They were on his land illegally. He said he would sue for damages. He even seemed to be on the verge of some violent action. Considering all angles, the leaders from Prabhupada, whom Prabhupada would entrusted to solve the Juhu entanglement, decided that ISKCON should relinquish the land. Drafting a joint letter to Srila Prabhupada, they had Shamsundara hand deliver it to him in Vrindavana. Can you continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah, చదవండి మాతాజీ.
Sitting in his room at the Radha Damodara temple, Srila Prabhupada read the letter from Bombay and then set it aside. He walked out in the open courtyard. In the last night of day, many birds were chirping, and the devotees sat on the ground on a durry, waiting. Prabhupada sat on the simple raised seat and began singing Jai Radha Madhava. He had Pradyumna read, stopping him to explain a point wherever he felt inclined. He spoke of the special benefits of residing in Vrindavana, but warned that one should not come to Dhamma to do some business or to commit any offences. If, however, a Vrindavana resident did commit an offence, he could still receive the special benefits, provided he remained sticking to the dust of Vrindavana. Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, one second. Let me see anyone join. Kiraj Prabhuji, let them on. Okay. Leave that problem. అందరు చదివారు. I'll read. Okay, night fell, and in the dark country ad, Prabhupada continued lecturing beneath the dim electric bulbs. Visiting pilgrims came and went, watching the Swamiji lecturing in English to his Western disciples. After the question and answer period, Prabhupada walked back to his room, exchanging words along the way with Guruchand Goswami, the temple proprietor. Some devotees lingered in Prabhupada's room, and many Indians peered through the barred windows, although they had never cared to look years ago, before the room's permanent assistant, Bhaktivedanta Swami, had gone to America. When Prabhupada was finally alone, he began to think of Bombay. Although hundreds of miles away, the occurrences there were beating on his heart here in Vrindavan. He took out his copy of the agreement he had signed with Mr. N. Then he called his secretary and began dictating a letter to his leaders in Bombay. He began his letter like a liar, answering logically, point by point. One reason his disciples had given for wanting to give up the land was that the charity commissioner had refused them permission. In that case, Prabhupada reasoned they should try to get back the money and give up the land. But it appeared that the charity commissioner permission was delayed and not denied. A smaller matter. Although Mr. N had mentioned a 6 months time for obtaining the charity commission approval, Prabhupada pointed out that the original agreement mentioned no such time limit. Another reason Prabhupada's men had given for wanting relinquish the land was that, according to Mr. N, they had failed to obtain the conveyance within 6 months. As per the original sale agreement, Prabhupada replied that, according to the clause in the question, it is our option to rescind the contract within 6 months, not the vendors. But the real point was that Mr. N had accepted checks worth of 1 lakh rupees as down payment within the 6 months period, and therefore the sale agreement was completed. We consider that he has completed the conveyance, and we do not want to resend, but we shall close the deal immediately. Finished. That's all. He is trying to avoid this issue by tricks, and he has dominated, you, and you are a little afraid of him, and he has fooled you to think that he is a superior legal position, so that you will give him some money. But this is cheating. We shall not give him any more money. Don't pay him any more. First of all, bring a criminal case against him. So why you should be disappointed and afraid of him? Our position is very, very strong. If Mr. N was threatening violence, that also was not grounds for quitting the land. The devotees were on the land legally and should seek police protection. So Prabhupada has answers for everything, Krishna. Therefore, I say that you boys cannot deal very well in these matters because you are too timid. Now, whatever you like, you may do. Immediately criminal cases should be taken. That you are not doing because he is bluffing you. He says that big words and makes threats, and you believe him foolishly and do like he says, and do like he says. That I shall not do. Prabhupada's conclusive advice was that the devotee go to magistrate and tell him, we gave Mr. N money. We know he is threatening violence and drive us away. They should not have afraid. Prabhupada had not come to Vrindavana only to lecture. He wanted to begin construction of his new property. And the news from Bombay didn't distinct from his purpose. Every day he would have devotees hold a Sankirtana possession from the Damodara temple to the property at Ramanareti. He would also go out occasionally to see the site. Still nothing more than grass huts, a wire fence, a small stock of building materials. Shubala, the disabled in charge of construction, was slow and reluctant, and Prabhupada sent for Tamil Krishna Goswami to come from Bombay to take charge. Early one morning, Subala left the land at Ramanareti, where he had been staying, and approached Srila Prabhupada on the roof of Radha Damodar temple. Prabhupada, he said, I am having so much difficulty. I don't have time to read. I can't chant my rounds properly. I can't think of Krishna. I am always thinking of how this contract is shading us. I am thinking of signing checks for labyrinth material. It is just too much. All these things on my mind are stopping me from thinking of Krishna. Do you think Arjuna was simply meditating on Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Prabhupada replied. Do you think Arjuna was sitting in a yogic trance while on the battlefield Krishna worked? Do you think Arjuna was sitting in a yogic trance while the battlefield Krishna worked? No, he was fighting. He was killing for Krishna. He was thinking of all the soldiers that he has to kill for Krishna. Okay. Thinking of the checkbook, thinking of the men, thinking of the contractors. Thinking of checkbook, thinking of the men, thinking of contractors. This is all like Arjuna's thinking. This is Krishna service. You should not worry about thinking of Krishna directly. Arjuna was not sitting before Krishna in trance. Arjuna was not sitting before Krishna's in trance, meditating on his form. He was engaged in Krishna service. Similarly, this is Krishna service, and you should engage. Your life is full of Krishna service, and that is very good. Okay. Shubhla is still unsatisfied. He complained to Prabhupada that other devotees wouldn't cooperate with him. He wanted to go into the seclusion of Vrindavana for the rest of his life and chant, instead of becoming a full-time preacher in ISKCON. Okay. Srila Prabhupada asked, what do you mean? No one will listen to you. You think that means they were defective? No, you are defective. Prabhupada raised his voice. If you are preaching and no one will listen, don't think that you should go away in disgust and save yourself by chanting. No, that is not our line. You must qualify ourselves so they will listen. It's చాలా important. We must qualify ourselves so they will listen. Do you know the story of Mr. Beecham? Okay, Shubhla shook his head. Okay, no one would buy his medicine. Prabhupada continued. So he became anxious. Still he tried. One day, a man approached him in his shop, and asked if he had any Beecham's powder. Okay, Beecham's powder. Okay, and in excitement that someone had asked him is the medicine, he died. Similarly, better we spend our whole life and die just to make 1% Krishna conscious. That is our line. To become absorbed in preaching of Krishna, whether in Vrindavan or anywhere, we must save all the asuras. We must save all these asuras from destroying the world. So nice. In stressing, active, don't run away and think that like you can do japa and then you'll be peaceful. No. So you should be picking up the seva. That is what he's saying. Prabhupada. In stressing active service and practical results, Srila Prabhupada was exactly following the teachings and example of his spiritual master. According to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, to chant in a cellular place and not preach was a cheating process. This is a big learning for me today. Okay, let me read again. According to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, to chant in a cellular place and not preach was a cheating process. Devotional service meant practical work for Krishna. So on. The simple, positive way to control the senses was to engage them in fully service of Krishna. Active service was the topmost yoga. Prabhupada told Subala. అంటే వీళ్ళందరూ టెంపుల్స్ కన్స్ట్రక్ట్ చేయడానికి హెల్ప్ చేస్తున్నారు ప్రభుపాదకి. సో దే ఆర్ ఇన్ టాప్ మోస్ట్ యోగా. Okay, a fact that he had repeatedly explained in his books. Okay, in the recently published second count of Srimad Bhagavatam, he had written, let me read it and then I'll stop. Here it is clearly mentioned that inhabitants of Vrindavana was essentially busy in the hard labor of their day's work. And due to the day's hard labor, they were engaged in a sound sleep at night. So, practically, they had a very little time to devote to meditation or to the other paraphernalia of spiritual activities. But factually, they were engaged in the highest spiritual activities only. Everything done by them was spiritually, because everything was devoted in their relationship with Lord Sri Krishna. The central point of activities was Krishna, and as such, the so-called activities in the material world were saturated with the spiritual potency. That is the advantage of the way of Bhakti Yoga. One should discharge one's duty on the Lord Krishna's behalf. One should discharge one's duty on the Lord Krishna's behalf. And all one's actions will be saturated with Krishna's thoughts, the highest pattern of the trance, the spiritual realization. I think this way of explaining is not happening even in today's world by any organization, any spiritual organization. Yeah. So he said that real devotion or highest yoga is just simply serving Krishna and preaching. Okay. It's a missionary organization. That's how Srila Prabhupada has built ISKCON. Hare Krishna. I'll just read this last paragraph and then stop. As far as possible, Prabhupada engaged each disciple in a certain service according to the particular disciple psychological nature. But everyone had to take up some kind of work for Krishna. It's very important. See, everyone has to take up some kind of work for Krishna. Since Prabhupada desired to build a temple in Vrindavan, then whoever would help me to do it, whether they were trained or not, whether it was their tendency or not, whoever insistence would become a very dear and to Lord Krishna.
జాకెట్ వేసుకున్నాము అదే అదే
Raju Prabhu, 1 minute. Let me read it again. Since Prabhupada desired to build a temple in Vrindavana, then whoever would help him to do it, whether they are trained or not, or whether it was their tendency or not, whoever offered him assistance would become very dear to him and to Lord Krishna. Doesn't matter whether they have a skill or not. Once they start participating, they will learn. That is the mood of Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. Okay. When a householder couple, Gurudasa and Yamuna, agreed to remain in Vrindavana to help Prabhupada to build the temple, Prabhupada welcomed it and shared with them the intention of his pain. I'll just read this. We cannot stop the Prabhupada Leelamritam once we start reading. If we can construct a nice temple in Vrindavana for me in this way, I shall be eternally grateful, because we are worldwide movement of Krishna. And if we do not have a nice place at Vrindavana, then what will be the use? Vrindavana is Krishna's land. And in the future, many of our disciples will go there just to see, along with many tourists and other friends. So therefore, we must have sufficient place for them. I know that you are not trained up for being construction manager. Neither the job must be very tasteful to you. But because you are a sincere devotee of Krishna, he is giving you all the strength and intelligence how to do it. That is what we want. And that is the advancements of Krishna consciousness. Okay. This will be the last paragraph for today. By the time Prabhupada and most of his disciples left Vrindavana at the end of Kartika, relations between his disciples and residents of Vrindavana had improved. The people of Vrindavana were impressed by the devotees' daily Sankirtana position to Ramana Reti, and they were impressed by Prabhupada. Although the Prabhupada felt that much time had been wasted, it has been a year since Mr. S offered them the land has now hopeful. Mr. N, okay, whatever. Mr. Sublan.
Sir, yes.
Yes, sir.
బృందావనంలో కదా
మిస్టర్
అంటే
ఏస్ బృందావన్ ల్యాండ్ ప్రభు. మిస్టర్ ఎన్ జుహూ ల్యాండ్.
Okay, it has
land,
been
land,
here.
land
Yes,
is
Amme said
beautiful.
offer them land. He was now hopeful. Okay, yes, so ఏం problem లేదు, whatever. Okay, so అంటే Subbalaki he has been trained and then he taught. Okay, and then there was another two couple came. Okay, okay, Gurudasa and Yamuna. So వాళ్ళకు కూడా instruction ఇచ్చారు. Yeah, take care. And so it's not easy. Whatever temples we are seeing today, it has not fallen from sky. It's lot of hard work. Okay, sweat by Prabhupada and all his direct disciples. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So all disciples, okay, who put lot of hard work, okay, their blood and sweat and blood to construct the temples in Vrindavan, Mayapur, and Bombay, across the India and across the country, across the world, is so glorious. Okay, so we should be eternally thankful to them. Yeah, all goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to Srila Prabhupada disciples to help his mission. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji's Mataji's, for joining today's call.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. Go ahead, Prabhu. Shri Giriraj Prabhu.
థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రభు. సో
Thank you.
చదువుతుంటే మీకు ఆగాలనిపించట్లేదు కదా?
లేదు ప్రభు. Yeah.
అదే వండర్ఫుల్ ప్రభు. దట్స్ వేర్. అండ్ మీరు చదువుతుంటే వింటున్నా లాస్ట్లీ. సో ఫ్యూ థింగ్స్ ప్రభు, వి ఆల్ నో దీస్ టూ టర్మ్స్, భజనానంది అండ్ గోష్ఠ్యానంది.
Mm.
భజనానంది అండ్ గోష్ఠ్యానంది.
Yes.
భజనానంది అంటే సిట్టింగ్ ఇన్ వన్ ప్లేస్, సెక్లూడెడ్ ప్లేస్.
వాయిస్ తక్కువ ఉంది ప్రభు. వాయిస్
సిట్టింగ్ ఇన్ వన్, వాయిస్ అంటే ఇక మిడిల్ ఆఫ్ ద నైట్.
ఓకే ఎస్ కంటిన్యూ సారీ.
అది భజనానంది అండ్ గోష్ఠ్యానంది అని టూ టర్మ్స్ వింటాం కదా. సో రీచింగ్ ప్రభుపాద, భక్తి సిద్ధాంత సరస్వతి ఠాకూర్ అండ్ భక్తి వినోద్ ఠాకూర్ అందరిది కూడా ప్రాక్టీస్ అండ్ ప్రీచ్. ఫస్ట్ వన్ is to practice to ourselves and preach. Practice and preach, two
Yes,
things. అది ఒక పాయింట్ అప్పుడు చెప్దాం అనుకున్నా, చదువుతుంటే వింటుండే. అండ్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ వీ నీడ్ టు బి బిజీ ఇన్ కృష్ణ కాన్షియస్నెస్. అది ఎవ్రీబడి హ్యాస్ టు డూ సమ్ వర్క్ ఫర్ కృష్ణ అని రాసిన ప్రభుపద. ఎవ్రీబడి కెన్ డూ సంథింగ్, కంట్రిబ్యూట్ టు సంథింగ్, డూ టేక్ అప్ ఎనీ సేవ అకార్డింగ్ టు దేర్ సైకో ఫిజికల్ నేచర్. ప్రభుపాదని అట్లా ఎంగేజ్ చేసిండు. ఒకతనికి మేనేజ్మెంట్ మీద ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఉంటే అందులో పెట్టిండు. ఒకరికి ప్రీచింగ్, పూజారి సేవ, లైక్ దట్. ఒకరికి బుక్ డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్, ఒకరికి కుకింగ్, ఒకరికి కీర్తన్, అట్లా ఎవ్రీ సర్వీస్ ఈజ్ ఐడెంటికల్ విత్ కృష్ణ. ఒకటి తక్కువ, ఒకటి ఎక్కువ, ఒకటి పైన, ఒకటి కింద, ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈజ్ పర్ఫెక్ట్. సో దట్స్ వెరీ జగద్గురు శ్రీ ప్రభుపాద కీ జై. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ ప్రభుజీ.
థ్యాంక్ యూ
and all the devotees.
హరే కృష్ణ. థ్యాంక్ యూ హరిపోల్. పంచాకల్పతరుభ్యశ్చ కృపాసింధుభ్యో చ పతితానాం పావనేభ్యో వైష్ణవేభ్యో నమః. అనంతకోటి వైష్ణవ బృందకి జై. శ్రీల ప్రభుపాదకి జై.
Jai. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
హరే కృష్ణ.
థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రభుజీ. హరే కృష్ణ.
హరే కృష్ణ.